The autumn morning at Windsor Castle carried an unusual tension that even 9-year-old Princess Charlotte could sense. She walked through the grand corridors with her characteristic confidence, her small shoes clicking against the polished marble floors. The young princess had always possessed a remarkable understanding of royal protocol. Yet today something felt different about the formal gathering ahead. Charlotte's governess had briefed her about the ceremony earlier that morning, explaining that Queen Camilla would be receiving several military honors in the castle's main hall. As third in line to the throne, Charlotte was expected to attend and observe proper royal etiquette. The princess nodded dutifully during the briefing, but her mind was already processing the complex dynamics she had begun to notice within the royal family. The relationship between her father, Prince William, and Queen Camilla had always been cordial in public. Yet Charlotte was perceptive enough to pick up on the subtle undercurrents. She remembered her late grandmother, Princess Diana, through stories and photographs, and had begun to understand the complicated history that shaped her family's present relationships. These thoughts weighed on her young mind as she prepared for the morning's events. Captain James Morrison of the Queen's Guard stood at attention in the castle's ceremonial hall, his red uniform immaculate and his expression focused. Morrison had served the royal family for 12 years, witnessing countless formal occasions and understanding the intricate web of relationships that existed behind palace walls. He had particular respect for the younger generation of royals, especially Princess Charlotte, whom he had observed growing into a thoughtful and principled young woman as guests began arriving for the ceremony. Morrison noticed the careful choreography of royal positioning. Queen Camilla entered with her usual poise, wearing a navy blue dress adorned with the insignia of her new military appointments. She smiled warmly at the assembled crowd, which included various military officials, government representatives, and select members of the royal family. The atmosphere was formal, yet celebratory. Befitting such an important occasion, Princess Charlotte arrived with her personal protection officer, scanning the room with intelligent eyes that seemed to take in every detail. She wore a simple but elegant dress appropriate for her age, her hair neatly styled, and her posture reflecting years of deportment training. However, those who knew her well could detect a certain resolve in her expression that suggested she had given considerable thought to this moment. The ceremony began with traditional fanfare as Queen Camilla was presented. With her new military honors, the audience watched respectfully as various officials spoke about her contributions and dedication to military causes. Charlotte stood quietly among the other family members, her hands clasped in front of her, observing everything with the keen attention that had become her trademark. Captain Morrison, positioned strategically near the royal family section, found himself watching Princess Charlotte as much as he monitored the room for security purposes. He had noticed over the years that the young princess possessed an unusual combination of respect for tradition and independent thinking. She rarely acted impulsively, yet when she took a stand on something, it was always well considered and principled. As the formal presentations concluded, the moment arrived for the traditional receiving line, where family members would offer their congratulations to Queen Camilla. This was when protocol dictated that younger members of the royal family would curtsey to acknowledge her position and the significance of the occasion. The room fell into an expectant silence as attention turned to the royal family members. Prince William stepped forward first, offering a formal bow to his stepmother and exchanging brief, cordial words about the ceremony. Other family members followed suit, each maintaining the proper protocol that such occasions demanded. The choreography of royal etiquette played out exactly as expected, with each participant understanding their role in this carefully orchestrated moment. Princess Charlotte's turn approached, and Captain Morrison found himself unconsciously straightening his already perfect posture. Something in the princess's demeanor had caught his attention, a quiet determination that suggested this moment held particular significance for her. The young princess stepped forward with grace, her head held high, meeting Queen Camilla's gaze directly. What happened next would become a defining moment that rippled through the royal household and beyond. Instead of offering the expected curtsy, Princess Charlotte remained standing, her posture respectful but unwavering. She looked directly at Queen Camilla and spoke in a clear, measured voice that carried across the suddenly silent room. The princess's decision sent a subtle shock through the assembled crowd. Though most maintained their composed expressions, Captain Morrison felt a surge of admiration for the young royal's courage, recognizing that such a moment required tremendous strength of character. Queen Camilla's reaction was carefully controlled, her smile remaining in place even as surprise flickered briefly in her eyes. The silence that followed Princess Charlotte's breach of protocol stretched for what felt like an eternity, though in reality it lasted only seconds. Queen Camilla's years of public service had taught her to handle unexpected moments with grace. She responded with a measured nod toward the young princess. However, the tension in the room was unmistakable, as everyone present understood they had witnessed something unprecedented. Captain Morrison watched the scene unfold with growing concern. Not for security reasons, but because he could see the potential consequences beginning to form. Several senior royal household members exchanged meaningful glances, their expressions suggesting that this moment would not go unaddressed. The princess herself seemed remarkably composed, as if she had anticipated exactly this reaction and was prepared to face whatever followed. Princess Charlotte's personal protection officer, who had been standing nearby, stepped slightly closer to his charge. He had worked with the royal family long enough to recognize when a situation was developing beyond the ceremonial script. His primary concern was always the princess's well-being, and he could sense that the aftermath of this moment might prove challenging for the 9-year-old royal. The ceremony continued. With forced normalcy as queen, Camilla graciously accepted congratulations from the remaining guests. Her decades of experience in public life allowed her to maintain her composure, though those closest to her could detect subtle signs of her surprise. She had grown fond of Charlotte over the years, and had not expected such a public display of what could be interpreted as defiance. After the formal proceedings concluded, guests began to mingle in the adjoining reception room. But the earlier incident cast a shadow over what should have been a celebratory atmosphere. Conversations were conducted in hushed tones, with many guests processing what they had witnessed. Some viewed it as a momentary lapse in a child's training, while others recognized it as something more significant. Princess Charlotte found herself somewhat isolated during the reception. As adults seemed uncertain how to approach her after the earlier scene, she maintained her composure admirably, accepting refreshments when offered and responding politely to those who engaged her in conversation. However, Captain Morrison could see the weight of the situation beginning to affect her. Despite her brave exterior, the princess's governess approached her with obvious concern, speaking in low, urgent tones about the importance of proper protocol and the potential ramifications of her actions. Charlotte listened respectfully, but did not offer any apology or indication that she regretted her decision. Her resolve appeared to strengthen rather than weaken under the gentle but firm correction. Captain Morrison found himself in an unusual position as he observed these interactions. His role traditionally focused on security and protection, but he felt compelled to consider the broader implications of what he had witnessed. The princess's action had been deliberate and principled, not the impulsive behavior of a child, and he respected her courage even as he understood the difficulties it might create. Word of the incident began to spread through the castle's corridors with the speed that characterized all royal household news. Staff members who had not witnessed the event firsthand received secondhand accounts that varied in their interpretation of what had occurred. Some described it as a minor breach of etiquette, while others recognized it as a more significant statement of principle. Prince William was quickly informed of his daughter's actions, and his reaction was carefully measured. As someone who understood both the importance of royal protocol and the complex family dynamics involved, he found himself in a delicate position. He needed to address his daughter's behavior, while also considering the underlying reasons that might have motivated her decision. The conversation between father and daughter took place in private, away from the prying eyes of household staff and visiting dignitaries. William approached the discussion with the careful balance of parental guidance and royal instruction that had characterized his own upbringing. He listened to Charlotte's explanation with patience, recognizing that her actions stemmed from deeply held convictions rather than mere rebellion, Charlotte explained her. Reasoning with the articulate thoughtfulness that had impressed adults throughout her young life, she spoke about her understanding of family history, her feelings about loyalty and respect, and her belief that some gestures carried meanings beyond their ceremonial purposes. Her father found himself both concerned about the immediate consequences and proud of his daughter's principled thinking. The household staff, who had served the royal family for years, began to take sides, though they expressed their opinions carefully and only among trusted colleagues. Some felt that the princess needed firmer guidance about protocol and respect for hierarchy. Others admired her courage and saw her actions as evidence of strong character that would serve her well in future royal duties. Captain Morrison completed his official duties for the day with professional efficiency, but his thoughts kept returning to the morning's events. He had witnessed many moments of royal drama over his years of service, but something about Princess Charlotte's quiet act of defiance resonated with him. He began to consider whether his role might extend beyond traditional security concerns to include moral support for a young royal navigating complex family dynamics. The following morning brought an unusual atmosphere to Windsor Castle, as news of Princess Charlotte's protocol breach had reached the highest levels of the royal household. The Lord Chamberlain's office had scheduled an urgent meeting to discuss the incident and determine appropriate responses. Such meetings were typically reserved for more serious breaches of protocol, indicating that Charlotte's actions were being taken very seriously indeed. Captain Morrison arrived for his morning briefing to find the castle's security protocols had subtly shifted. Additional attention was being paid to monitoring conversations and ensuring that news of the incident remained contained within appropriate channels. The royal family's reputation management team had already begun crafting strategies to minimize any potential negative publicity should the story leak to the press. Princess Charlotte woke to find her daily schedule significantly altered. Her usual morning activities had been replaced with additional deportment lessons and meetings with senior household staff who specialized in royal protocol. The message was clear. Her actions required immediate correction and comprehensive retraining to prevent future incidents. The princess accepted these changes without complaint. Though her expression remained resolute, Queen Camilla, meanwhile, faced her own set of challenges in responding to the situation. She understood that her reaction would set important precedents for future interactions with Charlotte and would be closely watched by other family members. Her advisors urged a firm but measured response that would reinforce proper protocol while avoiding the appearance of vindictiveness toward a child. Morning's lessons proved particularly challenging for Charlotte, as her instructors emphasized the importance of showing appropriate respect to all senior royals, regardless of personal feelings. The princess listened attentively and answered questions correctly when asked about proper procedures. However, her teachers noted that, while she understood the expectations, she showed no signs of changing her underlying perspective. Captain Morrison's duties that morning included providing security for several meetings related to the incident. As he stood guard outside conference rooms and private offices, he could hear fragments of heated discussions about appropriate responses and long-term implications. Some voices advocated for stern disciplinary measures, while others counseled patience and understanding given Charlotte's age and the complex family circumstances. During her lunch break, Princess Charlotte found herself dining alone, a departure from her usual routine of eating with other family members or staff. The isolation seemed deliberate, designed to give her time to reflect on her actions and their consequences. However, rather than appearing chastened, the princess used the solitude to organize her thoughts and strengthen her resolve. The afternoon brought a series of individual meetings between Charlotte and various senior household members. Each conversation followed a similar pattern: gentle but firm questioning about her motivations, detailed explanations of protocol requirements, and requests for assurance that such incidents would not occur again. Charlotte responded to each meeting with politeness and intelligence, but offered no promises about changing her behavior. Captain Morrison observed these proceedings with growing admiration, for the princess's strength of character. He had seen adults crumble under far less pressure, yet Charlotte maintained her dignity and principles throughout each challenging conversation. Her ability to articulate her position while remaining respectful of her elders demonstrated a maturity that impressed even her critics. Word of the ongoing discussions reached Prince William, who found himself walking a careful line between supporting his daughter's right to express her convictions and maintaining his position within the royal hierarchy. He understood that Charlotte's actions reflected not just personal feelings but also broader questions about loyalty, family dynamics, and the evolving nature of the monarchy itself. The day's most significant meeting occurred when Queen Camilla requested a private audience with Princess Charlotte. The conversation took place in one of the castle's smaller sitting rooms. Away from the formal grandeur that had characterized their previous encounter, both participants approached the meeting with careful preparation. Understanding that their exchange could determine the future of their relationship, Queen Camilla began the conversation with genuine warmth, acknowledging Charlotte's intelligence and the complexity of the situation they both faced. She spoke honestly about her own position within the family and her understanding of the difficult emotions that historical events had created. Her approach was neither condescending nor demanding, but rather that of one family member seeking to understand another. Charlotte listened respectfully to Queen Camilla's words, occasionally asking thoughtful questions that demonstrated her sophisticated understanding of the issues involved. She explained her own perspective with remarkable eloquence for a 9-year-old, detailing her feelings about family loyalty and the symbolic meaning she attached to formal gestures of respect. The conversation revealed the depth of Charlotte's knowledge about her family's history and her genuine struggle to reconcile her love for her father with her complicated feelings about past events. Queen Camilla found herself moved by the princess's honesty and impressed by her ability to articulate such complex emotions. Both women began to understand that their conflict stemmed from deeply held principles rather than simple defiance. Captain Morrison, positioned discreetly outside the meeting room, could sense the changing tone of the conversation through the softer voices and longer pauses that suggested genuine communication rather than confrontation. He began to hope that a resolution might emerge that would honor both Charlotte's principles and the family's need for unity and protocol compliance. The private conversation between Queen Camilla and Princess Charlotte extended well beyond its scheduled time, indicating that both participants were finding value in their honest exchange. When they finally emerged from the sitting room, observers noted subtle changes in both their expressions. While no formal announcements were made, the tension that had characterized the previous day seemed to have eased considerably. Captain Morrison witnessed the aftermath of this crucial meeting with professional interest and personal relief. His years of service had taught him to read the subtle signs that indicated whether conflicts were escalating or resolving. The body language and interactions he observed suggested that some form of understanding had been reached, though the specifics remained private between the two principals involved. Princess Charlotte's afternoon schedule was quietly adjusted to remove some of the additional protocol training that had been hastily arranged. Instead, she was allowed to return to several of her regular activities, including her favorite art lesson and a session with her music tutor. The princess approached these familiar routines with renewed energy, suggesting that the emotional burden of the previous day's aftermath had been somewhat lifted. Royal household staff began to notice subtle changes in how the incident was being discussed in official circles. Where morning conversations had focused on discipline and correction, afternoon discussions shifted toward understanding and accommodation. Senior staff members who had initially advocated for stern measures began to reconsider their positions after learning more about the thoughtful nature of Charlotte's actions. Queen Camilla's own demeanor showed noticeable changes as she continued with her scheduled appointments throughout the day. Those who worked closely with her observed that she seemed more reflective and less concerned about the protocol breach itself. Her conversations with advisors began to focus on long-term relationship building rather than immediate corrective measures. Prince William received detailed briefings about both the mornings, disciplinary sessions, and the afternoons private meeting between his stepmother and daughter. His relief was evident to those who knew him well. as he had been genuinely concerned about the potential for lasting damage to family relationships. The news that productive dialogue had occurred allowed him to approach his own conversations with Charlotte from a position of support rather than correction. Captain Morrison's evening briefing included updates on the overall security situation, which had remained stable despite the internal family dynamics. His supervisors noted that the potential for negative publicity had diminished significantly, reducing the need for enhanced protective measures around media management. The situation appeared to be resolving itself through family channels rather than requiring institutional intervention. That evening, Princess Charlotte joined her family for dinner, marking a return to normal household routines after a day of disrupted schedules and tense meetings. The conversation around the dinner table was carefully neutral, focusing on upcoming events and general family news rather than addressing the recent incident directly. However, the atmosphere was noticeably more relaxed than it had been 24 hours earlier. The princess's bedtime routine proceeded normally, with her governess reading from a favorite book and discussing plans for the following day's lessons. Charlotte's questions and comments during these quiet moments revealed a young person who had processed the day's events thoughtfully and was ready to move forward constructively. Her resilience and emotional maturity continued to impress the adults responsible for her care. Meanwhile, Queen Camilla spent her evening in private reflection, considering not just the immediate incident but the broader implications for her relationships with the younger generation of royals. Her conversation with Charlotte had provided insights into perspectives she had not fully considered, leading her to contemplate adjustments in her own approach to family interactions and protocol expectations. Captain Morrison concluded his shift with a sense of professional satisfaction and personal admiration for how the crisis had been managed. The royal family's ability to address internal conflicts through dialogue and understanding rather than rigid enforcement of hierarchy impressed him. He recognized that he had witnessed something significant about the evolution of royal family dynamics in the modern era. The day's events had revealed important truths about each of the key participants. Princess Charlotte had demonstrated remarkable courage and principle, while also showing her capacity for respectful dialogue when approached with genuine understanding. Queen Camilla had displayed wisdom in choosing engagement over confrontation, recognizing that lasting relationships required mutual respect rather than mere compliance. Late that evening, a senior household staff member quietly informed Captain Morrison that his observations and conduct during the crisis had been noted by higher authorities. His respectful attention to the situation and his obvious concern for Princess Charlotte's well-being had impressed those who monitored such things. While no specific recognition was offered, the implication was clear that his professional dedication had been appreciated as the castle settled into its nighttime routines. The crisis that had dominated conversations for 2 days appeared to be resolving in a manner that strengthened, rather than damaged family relationships. The incident had become a learning experience that revealed the importance of understanding and communication in navigating complex, emotional, and institutional challenges within the unique environment of royal family life. The following week brought a major test of the new understanding between Princess Charlotte and Queen Camilla, when another formal royal event was scheduled at Buckingham Palace. The state opening of Parliament required the attendance of senior royals, including Charlotte in her capacity as a young member of the line of succession. Everyone involved understood that this event would reveal whether the private reconciliation had created lasting change. Captain Morrison was assigned to the advanced security team for the parliamentary ceremony, giving him the opportunity to observe preparations from multiple perspectives. He noticed that the usual detailed briefings about protocol expectations for Princess Charlotte had been modified to focus more on understanding the significance of ceremonies rather than rigid compliance with specific gestures. This subtle shift reflected the broader changes in approach that had emerged from the Windsor Castle incident. Princess Charlotte's preparation for the state opening included several conversations with her father about the historical and constitutional importance of the ceremony. Prince William took care to explain not just what was expected of her, but why these traditions mattered and how they connected to the broader responsibilities of royal service. Charlotte listened with the intense attention that had become her trademark, asking thoughtful questions that demonstrated her growing understanding of her role, queen. Camilla's own preparations included private moments of reflection about her approach to the younger royals. The insights gained from her conversation with Charlotte influenced her thinking about leadership and family dynamics within the monarchy. She recognized that earning respect and maintaining authority required different strategies when dealing with intelligent, principled young people who thought deeply about their actions and their meanings. The morning of the state opening dawned clear and bright, with thousands of spectators gathering along the processional route to catch glimpses of the royal family. Inside Buckingham Palace, the familiar choreography of a major state occasion unfolded with practiced precision. However, those who knew about the recent incident watched the interactions between Charlotte and Queen Camilla with particular interest. Captain Morrison took his position along the processional route within the palace, noting the relaxed confidence that Princess Charlotte displayed as she prepared for her public role. Gone was the tension that had characterized her demeanor during the Windsor Castle ceremony. In its place was a young royal who seemed to have found a way to balance her personal convictions with her public responsibilities. The formal procession, too, Westminster began with traditional pageantry, as the Irish state coach carried Queen Camilla and other senior royals through cheering crowds. Princess Charlotte traveled in a separate carriage with other junior royals, waving to spectators with genuine warmth and obvious enjoyment of the public celebration. Her natural charisma and evident pleasure in connecting with people impressed even seasoned royal watchers. At Westminster, the ceremony unfolded according to centuries-old traditions, with each participant playing their assigned role in the constitutional theater of British democracy. Princess Charlotte took her designated place with appropriate dignity, demonstrating her understanding of the solemnity and significance of the occasion. Her behavior throughout the lengthy ceremony was exemplary, earning approving nods from senior household officials. The critical moment came during the reception following the formal ceremony, when protocol again called for junior royals to acknowledge Queen Camilla's position through appropriate gestures of respect. Captain Morrison, now positioned within the reception venue, watched carefully as the scene that had created such controversy. The previous week was essentially recreated in a new setting. Princess Charlotte approached Queen Camilla with measured steps and obvious confidence, her expression calm but determined. The watching crowd of dignitaries and officials understood that they were witnessing a test of whether the royal family had successfully navigated their recent internal conflict. The princess stopped before Queen Camilla and looked directly into her eyes with unmistakable respect and warmth. What happened next surprised many observers, who had expected either a traditional curtsey or another breach of protocol. Instead, Princess Charlotte offered a graceful nod of acknowledgement that conveyed genuine respect while maintaining her personal dignity. Queen Camilla responded with a warm smile and a gentle touch on Charlotte's shoulder, indicating her approval and acceptance of this modified approach to their relationship. The exchange lasted only moments, but its significance was immediately understood by everyone present. A solution had been found that honored both traditional expectations and individual principles. The compromise demonstrated the royal family's ability to adapt protocols when necessary while maintaining the essential spirit of respect and hierarchy that such ceremonies required. Captain Morrison felt a surge of professional pride and personal satisfaction as he witnessed this successful resolution. The weeks of tension and uncertainty had culminated in a moment that strengthened rather than weakened the institution he was sworn to protect. Both Princess Charlotte and Queen Camilla shown wisdom and flexibility in finding a path forward that served everyone's interests. The remainder of the reception proceeded smoothly, with Charlotte and Camilla interacting naturally and warmly throughout the evening. Their conversations appeared relaxed and genuine, suggesting that their private reconciliation had indeed created a foundation for a positive ongoing relationship. Other family members and officials noted these interactions with obvious relief and approval, as the formal ceremonies concluded and the royal family prepared to return to their private residences. Captain Morrison reflected on the remarkable transformation he had witnessed. A potential crisis that could have created lasting family divisions had instead become an opportunity for growth. Understanding the development of more mature relationships based on mutual respect rather than mere hierarchical obligation. 3 months later, the royal family faced another significant occasion that would test the durability of the understanding reached between Princess Charlotte and Queen Camilla. The Queen's official birthday celebration required extensive public appearances and numerous formal protocols, providing multiple opportunities for their new relationship dynamic to be observed and evaluated by both family members and the wider public. Captain Morrison had been promoted within the Queen's Guard, partly in recognition of his professional handling of sensitive situations during the earlier crisis. His new position gave him greater insight into the long-term security and relationship management strategies that protected both individual royals and the institution itself. He approached the birthday celebrations with confidence that the family had successfully navigated their internal challenges. Princess Charlotte's growth and development over the intervening months had been remarkable to observe. Her confidence in public settings had increased significantly, and her understanding of her role within the family structure had deepened considerably. She had maintained her strong personal principles while learning to express them in ways that strengthened, rather than challenged, family unity. The birthday celebrations began with traditional ceremonies at Trooping the Color, where Charlotte's presence on the palace balcony drew significant positive attention from the crowds below. Her natural warmth and obvious pleasure in public engagement demonstrated her growing comfort with the responsibilities that would shape her future role. Royal watchers noted her increased maturity and poise with approval. Queen Camilla's approach to the celebrations reflected the insights she had gained from her earlier conversations with Charlotte. Her interactions with all the younger royals showed greater attention to their individual personalities and perspectives, creating an atmosphere of mutual respect rather than mere hierarchical obligation. The changes in her leadership style were subtle but significant. During the private family portions of the birthday weekend, Charlotte and Camilla were observed engaging in relaxed, genuine conversations about topics ranging from charitable interests to personal hobbies. Their relationship had evolved into something resembling a traditional aunt-niece dynamic, with mutual affection and respect replacing the earlier tension and uncertainty. Captain Morrison's duties during the celebrations included coordinating security for several private family gatherings, where he could observe the interpersonal dynamics that had developed since the Windsor Castle incident. The atmosphere was notably more harmonious than it had been months earlier, with Charlotte and Camilla often seen collaborating on various aspects of the weekend's activities. The most significant test came during the formal state banquet that concluded the birthday celebrations. This event required the most rigid adherence to protocol and provided the largest audience for observing royal family interactions. Charlotte's behavior throughout the lengthy evening demonstrated her complete mastery of ceremonial requirements while maintaining her authentic personality. When the moment arrived for the traditional toasts and acknowledgments that concluded the banquet, Princess Charlotte rose with the other family members to honor Queen Camilla's contributions to the monarchy and the nation. Her words, when her turn came to speak, were both personal and appropriately formal, expressing genuine appreciation while acknowledging their shared deep commitment to royal service. Queen Camilla's response to Charlotte's remarks revealed the depth of affection and respect that had developed between them. She spoke warmly about Charlotte's character and potential, describing her as a princess who understood that true nobility came from service to others rather than mere adherence to tradition. The exchange moved many observers and clearly demonstrated the positive resolution of their earlier conflict. The success of the birthday celebrations established a new model for how the royal family could navigate complex interpersonal challenges while maintaining their public roles and responsibilities. Charlotte's principled stand had ultimately strengthened rather than weakened. Institution by promoting more authentic relationships and greater mutual understanding among family members. Captain Morrison's final report on the celebrations noted that the security environment had been notably more relaxed throughout the weekend, reflecting the family's internal harmony and confidence. The absence of tension and uncertainty had allowed everyone to focus on their public responsibilities, rather than managing internal conflicts, resulting in more effective and engaging public appearances. In the months that followed, Princess Charlotte and Queen Camilla's relationship became a positive example of how the royal family could evolve and adapt. While maintaining its essential functions and values, their story demonstrated that respect and affection could not be mandated through protocol alone, but had to be earned through understanding, patience, and mutual consideration of each other's perspectives and principles. The incident that had initially seemed like a crisis had ultimately become a turning point that strengthened the royal family's ability to handle complex emotional and institutional challenges. Captain Morrison, reflecting on his role in supporting this transformation, recognized that his decision to respect and support Princess Charlotte's principles had contributed to a positive outcome that served everyone's best interests. Years later, as Princess Charlotte continued to grow into her royal role with grace and authenticity, many would look back on her courageous stand at Windsor Castle as a defining moment that helped modernize and strengthen the monarchy's approach to family relationships and public service. Her example had shown that true loyalty sometimes required the courage to challenge tradition in service of deeper principles and more meaningful relationships.